passionate in what makes people tick and why they do what they do. I don't know if it was because I was raised by a sheriff and a social worker and they'd come home and tell these awful stories about what people did throughout the day, but people's actions always interested me. Because of this, I've looked, ever since I was younger, I've looked into equal rights and like women's rights, all that stuff. And I like to follow a bunch of activist pages on Twitter. And when I did that, like about 2 years ago, I came upon an article by Matt McGorry. He's an actor and a known activist. This article, I clicked on it because at the time we shared many of the same beliefs. So I was like, oh, maybe this is something else that I'll like. And when I clicked on it, the article led me to a Black Lives Matter page. I read the page to gain more understanding about the movement, and I learned that even though these activists say that they're lessening discrimination between the races, and they're trying to stand out for those without a voice, they're only glorifying deaths that make them look like victims and make their race look put down. I decided that this movement was more of an outcry for attention, and it was bringing about more problems than solutions. Today I'm going to go over what the common belief is surrounding the Black Lives Matter movement, and then what it really is. I'm sure most of you have probably heard of the Black Lives Matter movement. If you haven't, it started with the shooting of a 19-year-old black teen. This started in 2012, but it wasn't until 2014 when another teen, Michael Brown, was shot by a white police officer. The movement claimed that this was big because the police officer, who was white, was profiling the kid because of his race. This movement was created to help African Americans being discriminated by color. This movement was created to bring cultural and social justice to African Americans, and this movement was made to work towards a world where Black lives aren't systematically and intentionally targeted for demise. A spokesperson of Black Lives Matter said that the challenge for their movement is to stem the tide of violence between African Americans while fixing our fragmented and broken society. Although they're trying for change, they're ignoring one of the main problems that proves that it's just not about making a change and just not about standing up for the Black lives. The Black Lives Matter movement is bringing more isolation to the races. A Philadelphia police commissioner, Charles Ramsey, is highly looked up to in Philadelphia. He's known for lessening the crime rate. And he said, while they have the country's attention, we should not ignore the black-on-black homicide. And then he was harassed for making that statement. And he said, while they have the nation's ear, don't ignore the quality of life. What he's trying to get across is that we should focus on the black-on-black homicide and then the black police homicide, because this group is only focusing on the blacks who are killed by whites or blacks who are killed by other races instead of focusing on like all black lives. Tori Stuckey, a writer and an activist, said, trying to understand the Black Lives Matter movement and the rationale behind the protests. They protest a white officer shot a black man, but there's no black-on-black homicide protest, or a black police officer gets assaulted and no one protests there. He says, I don't understand the death if all Black Lives Matter movement. If all Black Lives Matter, there, yeah. He said they should recognize all unfair black homicide. After shedding light on the black versus black homicide, we realize they say they're bringing change while ignoring that big issue. Claire Foran is a writer for the Atlantic paper. She said, it's terrible. I don't think it's different than what's been happening for a long time. She said, hatred has been normalized, and everything's hiding in the shadows, and then it needs to be brought out. And she's correct. Hatred against the races should not be normalized. This has been going on for years and years. What I think is Black Lives Matter is an attention grabber. They talk about lessening discrimination while discriminating whose death gets to be brought out into the public. As someone who wants to unite the races and make a change for our society, I think we should first dissolve the movement and focus on the quality of life, no matter the race. And to do this, I urge you not to believe the half-truths that the movement is putting out there, and instead take notice and realize that every murder, no matter the race, deserves to be known and grieved over.
So do you think think that the African Americans have a point as trying to make this movement, or do you think that they just did it just to?
I think when it first began, they did try to make good intentions, but they were only focusing on certain murders. And I think when they say all Black Lives Matter, but they're only picking certain Black lives, that they didn't go in the right direction there. Yes.
Do more blacks kill blacks than whites kill blacks?
Yes. Every year there's 437,000 murders, and out of those, what was it? 273,000 of them are blacks killing other blacks.
Would you agree that, or maybe you don't agree, maybe what is your stance about these minorities, how am I going to phrase the question? These minorities aren't represented well, and they maybe have a place to protest because they are maybe highlighted or don't have the rights as others. What do you say to that?
I do believe that there are some minorities that are getting ignored, and they should maybe make a movement and work towards it, but they should do it more where they focus on everything and not just like a couple problems. That answers your question.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So like, do the Hispanics and like Chinese, do they have their own movement too, or are they more?
No, they don't. They're only the Black Lives Matter movement right now. So.
All right.